Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special live holiday episode on the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Kirby. With me here, my double play partner is back, James Elifritz. And James, long time no see. How is your holiday season going so far?
Pretty quick, actually. We're less than 5 days now away from Christmas. I would say the majority of the shopping's done. How about yourself?
December is always weird to me because I feel like the month doesn't even exist. Like there's so much stuff jam-packed in 1 month. But then the holidays come and they go so fast. Then I feel like baseball's right around the corner. So I feel like now is as good a time as ever. Get back on the horse, get our arms warmed up again, because it may be cold and snowy outside here in Cleveland, Ohio, but pretty soon the buses are going to be getting loaded up to head to Goodyear. And whether good thing or bad thing at this point, you be the judge, but the roster just does not make a lot of sense right now. And each week I've been kind of thinking about it. And I'm like, is this the week? Is this the week something happens to make this roster make sense? Obviously, we just saw last week Tyler Glasnow traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Teams are continuing to let them just build a super team in baseball. And just on this general topic of baseball, James, we start with the Ohtani deal, right? $700 million. It just feels like monopoly money. Like I could just write a check for $700 million, but it doesn't feel like real money. Obviously, by far the largest contract in baseball history. It's kind of unprecedented for the game of baseball. Really, any sport, a deal that long and that large. But then we got the news Ohtani deferred a lot of that money, right? He wants the Dodgers to be able to continue to add talent around them. Obviously, he was stuck in the pits of the other side of Los Angeles with the Angels, continuously missed the playoffs. Things just always seem to go wrong there. So he hops on the Dodgers, wants them to continue to be able to add to their already incredibly talented roster. And then a week later, they get Tyler Glasnow to kind of anchor the front of that rotation. How do you feel about not just the deferred money aspect of this deal, but how do you feel about this idea of a super team in baseball in general? And how important do you think the need for a salary cap and a salary floor is?
I mean, super teams in baseball, it's not really anything new. I think as the numbers climb, thanks to the TV contracts, it makes it seem like there's a wider gap between, us small market teams versus, a team like the Dodgers. I will say from a player standpoint, I think it's fantastic for them because they have the strongest players union in professional sports. So they are getting, their fair share of the salaries that are due for some of the stars in the league. So to have Ohtani play for the Dodgers, knowing that the Dodgers are going to be in the playoffs pretty much every year, that part's exciting. It's exciting to see him energized for that, but it's also good for the sport of baseball and viewership in general to have your stars in the playoffs. And that's why they've extended and added playoff teams in order to help have more teams have a chance to get in the playoffs. So to me, it's good for TV. I think it's good for baseball. It doesn't feel great as a Guardians fan because that gap keeps getting bigger, not necessarily. But other than that, I think there's still a lot of positives from that whole story.
Kevin says the Dodgers are ruining baseball, and I kind of agreed to that to an extent. I think it would I think it also is, my opinion is a little bit geographically motivated here. Because would I feel the same way that the Dodgers are ruining baseball if it was like the Cleveland Guardians building this super team? Obviously, that's biased because that's my team. But if it was kind of a mid-market team, what if it was the Colorado Rockies building this super team? I wonder if part of it, too, and a lot of people's frustrations, and you could even make the case with Soto going to the Yankees. Like, I'm sure a lot of people were with me and just kind of throwing our hands up. Like, of course the Yankees traded for Soto, right? Plenty of other teams could have matched that prospect package, but then you have to look at it, and here we come back to money again. What was the likelihood of some other mid-market teams extending Juan Soto long-term with Scott Boras as his agent? That scared a lot of teams away. If more teams were like the Dodgers and just said, screw it, we're just going to spend all this money. We don't care about TV deals, which again, the Dodgers are not included in this whole Bally RSM mess. They have their own TV contract. But the one thing I do agree with what you said is I think it's good for ratings. I think kids growing up, Shohei Ohtani obviously is partially one of the faces of baseball as it is right now. You pair him with Mookie Betts, another incredibly popular player, Freddie Freeman, Clayton Kershaw, even though he's on the back end of his career. That gets people interested. And even if they're just on a Sunday night baseball game or TBS in the middle of the week, I think it can begin to get the general public tuning into the sport of baseball, right? So I think as a whole, it can help you capture some viewership. You and I were talking about this pre-show, but I think a bigger issue here is Major League Baseball just does such a horrible job, not just marketing their players and advertising their product, but making their product viewable. I've never seen a sport with so many RSN issues, local TV deal issues, blackout issues. If you're watching on the internet, you're streaming it, right? That's the biggest issue. I do think it's imperative that Major League Baseball gets a salary floor and a salary cap, because there's too much parity where the Oakland A's can spend $40 million, tank the whole season. Then you got the Dodgers spending $800 million in one off season. Then the flip side of that too is baseball is an 162 game season, by far the longest sports season. Does a higher payroll give you a better chance to win? Probably. But look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? They were rebuilding the prior year. They didn't go out and spend as much money as the Texas Rangers did. They ended up in the same place. But then Texas was able to take that last little leap in the World Series and bring that trophy home. Where Arizona is a young team, kind of a little bit relatable to the Guardians. They spend a little bit more than we do, but most of their product is homegrown. They came up through their system, acquired via trade, Gabriel Moreno. So I think baseball needs a salary floor and a salary cap. Mm-hmm. Because of more, I think, I'm not going to say that the Dodgers alone are ruining baseball, but I think we need to see if other teams start following the Dodgers way. And then free agents are signing for all this money and deferring their money, right? That could get tricky. And I think that's when in this next CBA negotiation in a few years, this is probably going to become more of an issue because you're going to get the cheap owners pissed off about it, right?
I mean, I'm with you about the salary floor and the salary cap. I would like to see that. I'd like to see some more competitive balance within Major League Baseball. The one thing I know we've been talking about on the side with Kevin and Derek and yourself is that we've been talking about whether or not baseball is broken and whether or not this kind of spending is ruining baseball. My thing is you look back through the different decades and just go back to the steroid era where it did hurt attendance at first, but then it still takes off. Baseball seems to somehow, between the Pete Rose gambling thing to the steroid era it seems to be like the cockroach that you just can't kill. And they're just going to continue on because I think the owners and the players know that it is so deep in our traditions in our country to go to the games, and as popular it is as watching it on TV when you don't want to go to the games. Because I grew up in an era where all games were not televised and you were listening to them more on the radio. And we have a great play-by-play guy with Tom Hamilton, but in most cases, I think we enjoy watching the game. And I just don't think that baseball is necessarily broken, and it's because there's probably this attitude between like I said, the players and the ownership and the commissioner that somehow, some way, and like with the TV deals that you're talking about, no matter what, even the lockout we had not that long ago, no matter what, the sport still goes on somehow, some way. And I think they're using that kind of mentality is no matter what they do to it, they can't break it, is my mentality on how I see them viewing Major League Baseball.
I think money is part of the issue, but I also think some things are out of Major League Baseball's control. Like, baseball's a slow sport, right? And the new rules helped, right? The pitch clock helped. Yeah. Games were sped up a little bit more. There was some more excitement. There was a ton of stolen bases. Obviously, guys like Ronald Acuna were a ton of fun to watch. And it's going to be slower, though. So there's always going to be people who are like, oh, baseball's just too slow for me, right? You get offense to defense where, basketball, it's sprinting up and down the court constantly. Yeah. And that's just not the game of baseball. But, like, my kid has ADHD, so he struggles sitting still through a baseball game because there's not enough constant action for him. And I think just the way society is moving right now, our faces are always in our phones. We always got a screen in front of us. We can access whatever information we need to whenever we want. It's a lot of instant gratification. So I think that's where the marketing comes in. Like, Major League Baseball has to get creative and find a way to locate your young stars, the Shohei Ohtanis, the Ronald Acuñas, all these young guys, and advertise them, get them out there, find a way to get this next generation in love with the game of baseball like we all grew up, right? Like, it was passed down to me from my dad, right? It was passed down to him from his parents. Baseball's got to do their part, though, in marketing and advertising that, right? But of course, the money's going to be the issue because hot stove season used to be exciting. Like, the winter meetings used to be where all the action happened, right? Ohtani didn't sign until after the winter meeting. Soto didn't get traded. Glasnow didn't get traded till after the winter meetings. I almost think baseball needs to do something differently with their free agency, too. Like, maybe do it like, I don't know, where you open it for a few days. It's a rush to sign all these guys. Then, you have a break where you can't talk, to free agents. Find a way to make that hot stove exciting again.
No, I think their biggest challenge is when the Ohtani story was it had a build up, and you had them, people had them in airports in Toronto, right? But still, you're competing against the NFL near the end of their season. Right. And, the NFL's got the whole game and most of the attention going on. I know gambling's a big thing too, and fantasy football and all that, but it was even tough for one of the game's best players, an MVP, and somebody that's comparable to a Babe Ruth that we haven't seen since a Babe Ruth. And he's just trying to break and get his story being told as a free agency story mixed in with the NFL. And media knows that the challenge of trying to have baseball compete with the NFL, even during the offseason, it's just an absolute challenge.
And he wanted it kept on the down low, too. He didn't want many leaks. His camp didn't want many leaks. So that was an issue, too. He's a private guy, right? He's not a flashy dude out there. He kind of wanted, he wanted his privacy respected. He wanted to be the one to break his news. So that didn't help Major League Baseball, because I'm sure they would have loved for leaks to be all over the place, where people were creating their own leaks because it was such a big story that I think we got to see the journalists and the insiders of the game of baseball. A lot of them had their credibility questioned that weekend because they all wanted to be first. Obviously, you had guys like Jeff Passan sitting in the background. He waited. But you have some guys in the industry who just wanted to be first. They wanted the information. They wanted to be the first ones to put it out there. And a few of them ended up being very incorrect. And my heart goes out to Toronto Blue Jays fans, man, because that has to be tough. There were a few different reports that Ohtani was choosing Toronto just for Shohei Ohtani to post the Los Angeles Dodgers logo on his Instagram. That had to be crushing.
Mel, don't forget, though. Go back 1 year. Remember the Aaron Judge announcement that he was going to sign with the
Arson
Giants?
Judge.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, he's re-signing with the Yankees. So, yeah, getting your name out there first isn't always the best option, especially if you're wrong. So, you definitely want to be accurate with your reporting on the biggest free agent signing of the offseason.
So we talk about the game of baseball as a whole, and do we need a salary cap and a salary floor? And how do we bring this back to the Guardians? So as far as because we see the Guardians roster does not make any sense so far. Derek just mentioned, is Hedgie the crown jewel of the offseason? To this point, yeah. He is. He's the king of vibes. They got their vibe leader back. I love what he said, though. Just kind of getting off track here a little, but I love how he said him and Sandy are going to just work with Bo Naylor, and he could be one of the best we've ever had, right? And that's Austin Hedges' main goal here, is to mentor Bo Naylor. He knows he's not going to come in here and improve this offense. He was not brought back here to help our slugging issue, but when we have this TV deal up in the air, right? Teams like the Dodgers get to go celebrate. Hey, we're on Ohtani. We're going to spend $700 million. Oh my gosh, now we're trading for Tyler Glasnow. Us as Guardians fans, it's December 20th, 5 days before Christmas, and we're praying a TV deal gets reached so we can start spending a little bit of money, right? Because what Major League Baseball was going to offer these teams was only a small chunk of what Diamond was going to be able to offer the Guardians. So the Guardians, along with the Braves, the Tigers, the Rangers, and the Brewers, all filed a motion saying that Diamond had to assume or reject their RSN contracts for the 2024 season by December 31st. So they want to put a rush on this deal, because I'm sure the Guardians, as well as these other teams, want to know, are we getting this money from Diamond, or are we only getting that small chunk from Major League Baseball? Because we know Austin Hedges cannot be our big move of the offseason. They haven't addressed the outfield slugging issues. They got De Los Santos in the Rule 5 draft from the Diamondbacks, which I love, by the way. But now they have a whole crap ton of infielders, right? We have the Rocchio Arias, probable spring training shortstop battle. But then De Los Santos, who hasn't played a game above AA, he's got to be on your active roster all year long now, or you have to return him to the Diamondbacks. So how do they fit him in at first base with Josh Naylor and Kyle Manzardo, right? You got to think, my gut's telling me something's coming. We know the Guardians are most active in January. I think that's where we're going to be headed this offseason as well. What are your thoughts about where the roster stands now?
Disappointed. Well, and then you had the addition of Ben Lively agreeing to the 1-year deal that we signed, the starting pitcher from the Reds. It made you think that maybe he's there to help cover if there's that Bieber trade that everybody keeps thinking that's going to happen. But everything that I've been reading recently, it's about that he's got maybe a shoulder issue and that his value is not as high as the Guardians want. So, Mel, my question is, what do you think with Bieber? If that shoulder, we're not going to get the return we want, why do we not just start the season with him, and maybe he stays healthy, catches fire. Let's see what happens with our team if we can be in first place going into the All-Star break like last year, even though that didn't stop our front office from making any trades to take away from our roster with the Aaron Savali trade. But I don't know. It's such a tough situation with Bieber because we could retain him. He could catch fire. We could look to trade him at the All-Star break if we're not where we want to be in the standings. What do we do?
I think that's a good point you bring up about the shoulder issue that's popping up. Obviously, the Guardians don't like to sell high or sell low on their guys. I'm sorry. They don't like to sell low, especially pitchers. But if we look at Mike Clevenger, right, Trevor Bauer, this is towards the point in the deal when they try to trade these guys. But then I've seen some people bring up, and it's actually a very valid point. Could this TV deal have an impact on the likelihood of Bieber getting traded? Because like you mentioned, if his value to other teams isn't where the Guardians value him, why not just hold on to him? Because if this TV deal pulls through, you may not be so inclined to want to save that money, that arbitration, what you're going to have to pay Shane Bieber in arbitration. You may be less likely to want to dump that salary if you know you're getting money from the Diamond RSN deal. I don't know how much that's going to play a part because I don't see them letting him walk for just a qualifying pick, but could they reevaluate this at the trade deadline? Because I don't think Ben Lively is enough starting pitcher insurance to move Shane Bieber. I would argue, I think you need another major league starter back in return. Like Michael Wacha signed with the Royals shortly after that, and it was a reasonable deal, but like that's the type of back end rotation guy you get excited about as a fan. Not Ben Lively. I've seen some encouraging stats that tell me the Guardians pitching factory led by Carl Willis could get a little bit more out of Ben Lively in that 5 spot than the Reds were with some of his off speed pitches. But time's going to tell on that. It's obviously a very low risk, high reward type situation. But there's no denying, James, that their starting pitcher depth is being tested. You obviously don't have Plesac hanging around anymore. You already DFA'd Cal Quantrill. Now we're talking about a Bieber trade. If they do trade Bieber, they better pray to God that Tristan McKenzie's elbow is healthy, right? Because Tanner Bybee is amazing. Gavin Williams, stud. Logan Allen, outstanding. Those are 3 out of 5 great dudes in your rotation. But is Tanner Bybee ready to anchor on a rotation in just year 2, right? Because the league's going to adjust to him a little bit. We see this with sophomore guys all the time. He finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting. He got that $2 million he got as a result. Just under 2, yeah. So he got a little nice payday, which is well-deserved. And I'm glad the Guardians let him continue to pitch through the season and not try to stop him from being in that top 3 Rookie of the Year voting, to avoid that money and the extra year of service time. But I just worry about the starting pitcher depth by trading Bieber. But I also think he's your best bet to get some help in the outfield. Kevin made a good point, though. They gave Hedges $4 million. They paid Ramon Laureano, I believe, $5 million in arbitration to keep him on as kind of their lefty mashing outfielder. And then you got, Miles Straw's contract. That's totaling around $16 million or so. They could have went out and made a push. Kevin mentions Hunter Renfroe, but I'd argue Teoscar Hernandez. You could have went out and made a push for one of these kind of higher end of the market type guys instead of going dumpster diving at your local thrift store on a Monday when everything's half off. At least the one by my house.
I was going to say, when you mentioned about, I think it was the Royals, it seems like
Royals spent.
I know, but they spend money. They spend money and they'll get some guys that are, mids, and then they look to trade them at the trade deadline just to get prospects back. So
the Royals'
me,
problem too is their pitching development has been so bad for so long that like they kind of just need guys to pitch for them until they can kind of reset organizationally a little bit. Because
Yeah,
you're
like
right,
Brady-
that's what they do. They flip these guys.
Brady Singer's never scared me, not once. You know, one of their top pitching prospects, and it's never
Because he looks terrified out there. He looks like
I
he's
know,
going
I
to
mean,
cry every start.
and then that means you need to give credit to where credit's due, is to our organization in the minor league
Yeah.
system and being able to develop pitching. The guy you didn't even mention, Joey Cantillo, we may see him. He may be the next young gun that joins the rotation this year, because Lively, when you look at his stats, he was 4-7 with a 5.38
Not so lively.
ERA with Cincinnati, and then he had 3 stints on the injured list. So to me, it's almost like Hunter Gaddis 2.0 statistically, where he's going to come in, he's going to eat some innings as a starter, but after that,
how much of that do you think is Great American Ballpark? Do we take that into consideration? Give him a little bit.
I guess the question is how many of those 12 starts were at home or versus on the road? So
right, we may need to dive into some splits.
Yeah,
because they did.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the Selby as Godcast talked last week about they kind of want to mess with his pitch repertoire a little bit, right? Because like his off-speed pitches, like a slider, is a lot more effective for him than his fastball. Like, can they fix that fastball a little bit, cut it, do something to it to make it not such a meatball coming down the plate? So I think if they can work with him, he could be a decent number 5.
I'm having Noah Syndergaard flashbacks, man.
I know. I was just thinking that too. And then I'm like, could they have just signed? I really was in my head. I was just running through. Could they have just re-signed Lucas Giolito? But Lucas Giolito is going to want too much money, right? And I look at this team where it sits now. And when you look at our minor league system, and I'm having a window issue. Lively, yeah. I don't disagree. I don't disagree, Kevin. So when we look here at our top 10 prospects, and James, I sent this to you the other day, but Chris Clegg, who does a ton of great prospect work on Twitter, he's the founder of the Dynasty Dugout, Tool Shed Pod. He was a 2023 MLB Writer of the Year, but he evaluated the Cleveland Guardians minor league system. And he lists our top 10 prospects. And I'm kind of feeling like the way this prospect list is, that our best chance for contention is in like 2025, 2020, maybe even 2026 to 2027. But then it's like you have Jose Ramirez, who's, on the wrong side of age 30 now. You have Josh Naylor needing an extension. So I feel like they need to do something to kind of like combine those windows a little bit, right? Whether it's kind of moving the younger guys along faster, maybe making some trades, getting some more major league ready talent. Coming in at number 1, we have Chase DeLauder, which I think is really no surprise to anybody. Him and Kyle Manzardo absolutely crushed the Arizona Fall League. Again, lots of complaints about his swing. Very Kyle Tucker-like. I'm super excited for him. His swing is pretty choppy, but it hasn't affected his power to this point. So I'm not. It's working for the kid, right? I'm not going to nitpick it. Kyle Manzardo comes in at number 2. Obviously, the first baseman we acquired for Aaron Savali. He should be on the opening day roster, barring something crazy or some future trades. He had a down season last year. He was going through a lot of personal things, a couple little injuries. But in the Arizona Fall League, he looked like he was back to his 2021 self, crushing balls all over the park. He has a great eye at the plate. He's going to be a big help with our slugging issue in the middle of that lineup. Juan Brito's number 3, another middle infielder. We got him from the Rockies for Nolan Jones. Obviously a trade that still makes a lot of people upset. but I think he could be the best guy out of this group. He's a switch hitter, great contact skills. He has an overall contact rate of 80%. So he kind of fits right into the type of guy that this organization loves. He's only chasing 23% of his pitches outside of the strike zone, which is really good for a kid his age. Hits more of his power to the pull side, doubles machine, 90th percentile exit velocity of 102 miles an hour. So he's doing some things that this lineup was struggling to do. It's minor league numbers. AAA has a ton of hitters, Parks. Obviously, we'll see what this can do. But then you have Brian Rocchio and Daniel Espino rounding out your top 5. Could Rocchio be that guy? Could he be? We just saw him have a jersey number change. I tweeted, that looks like a starting shortstop number to me.
It sure does. And we need to do something because, I know Derek just commented, let the kids play. The kids have been playing for the last 2 years. What we need is some of those kids playing for other teams. And from what you were saying, we need some major league ready guys playing out in the outfield with some power. I think infield wise, we're going to be fine. And we do know with younger players, power tends to develop later on in their 20s, unless they're actual freaks of nature coming up for their home run totals at the beginning of their career. But the strength and conditioning that they're going through as their bodies are developing into major league professional players, it takes time. And I don't know how much time we have. Like you said, Jose's in his early 30s now. You got Naylor there. You got guys that are ready to play, and you got a pitching staff with one of the best closers in baseball, with a very good pitching staff, young pitching staff that just needs some more veteran bats on that lineup. And if all we have to do is look a little bit north in Cleveland and look what a veteran player is doing for the Browns right now in one of the most important positions, if not the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback position. And that's our question with our Guardians dugout. Who's our quarterbacks? We know Naylor's as a top guy in the locker room. We know as a locker room as a whole that we got quality guys in there that gave great effort for how many years for Tito. And I think they're going to continue to do so next season. But for me, the missing element is we still need some veteran leadership. And I know Hedges is not going to do it with his batting average, but he's going to have to make up for it in a lot of different areas that I know that it's not going to necessarily show up on the scoreboard as far as Bo's development. But we need guys that are a Hedges type guy that can actually back it up on the field night in and night out. And that's the key to the 2024 season, besides good health with our pitchers.
Is Josh Naylor untouchable to you for that reason?
It's almost there's a handcuff to him because of Bo being on the team. It just feels that way. Yeah. Here's what I loved. There was one negative that I loved that was a positive was after that Savali trade did happen and the team felt like they were throwing in the towel for the season. And I don't remember all the details on the report, but if you remember, front office had to make a plane trip to Texas to talk to the team. And then what happened? Was that did that happen the same day that we got no hit? Or was I'm trying to remember the order. Was it the day? Yeah. So obviously that didn't sit well with the clubhouse, even though we have we had a strong leader and a Hall of Fame manager, Tito. But these guys, that just tells you right there, they want to win now. So no matter how young our team is, and for the limited vets that we have on this team, the Jose's and the Joshes, we still need more. I think we still need more. And when I say vets, I don't mean just a guy that's been bumping around the league. I mean a guy that has playoff experience, because if that's ultimately we want to get back to this year, which I know we all want October baseball, we sure as hell need somebody with some good playoff experience that is not going to, curl up and die in the corner when it's a big, there's bases loaded, 2 out, and we're down 2 runs and it's late in the game.
Yeah, I'm with Kevin. We need a right fielder and a center fielder. I was okay with paying Ramon Laureano. I think I'm okay with platooning that right field spot if you can upgrade center field, right? Or if that means sliding Quan from left to center, which I know they're hesitant to do because Quan's won his Gold Gloves out in left field. He's a great defensive left fielder. We know that.
Right.
But I think offensively, 100% have to find a way to improve right field and center field. I think Teoscar's a perfect fit for that. I still have doubts that they'll spend that type of money in free agency. I think the best route to improve this team is always going to be via trade. I think they've held on to a lot of these prospects for too long. But then you also have the issue, I think every fan base is guilty of this, but I think we over-evaluate our prospects, in comparison to what the rest of the league actually feels about them. There's a very large segment of this fan base who thinks Gabriel Arias is untouchable, and they think there's no way you can trade his power, and he's got to be the guy at shortstop. But I promise you, after his inconsistent playing time, his struggles versus left-handed pitching, and his giant swings from good to bad throughout the course of the season, I guarantee you his trade value has dropped a lot further than we feel about him in this fan base. Same with Brian Rocchio. He's tearing up the Venezuelan Winter League right now. He looks incredible. I think there's a path where he gets some of that power back that he lost last season. Rocchio had an interesting offensive season last year because he cut down on his chase rate a lot. He wasn't striking out as much. He had more gap power, but his home runs dropped significantly. But I think he's proven he does have power in that bat, and I think he's more of a 5-tool type guy than Gabriel Arias is. So that's what makes me even more pissed off that we held on to Ahmed Rosario for as long as we did, because if he wasn't our starting shortstop up until the trade deadline, you would have had Gabriel Arias playing every single day. You would have known for sure what you have with him, and you could have been in a position to trade one of these guys this offseason. Now they're at a point where I don't think they know enough about either guy to pull the trigger on a trade, because I've said it before. They've invested so much in this shortstop position. You cannot afford to be wrong, right? Like, you 100% have to be sure who your guy is at shortstop, because between international signing money, draft picks, trades, you've stockpiled middle infielders. The time has come. You have to choose. Because you have De Los Santos now. You got to get him in that infield. We already talked about Kyle Manzardo. Obviously, you have Jose and Andres Jimenez. Two of those guys are locked in at second base and third base. So shortstop, first base, you have a lot to work out. We talked about the outfield. That's the situation on the infield. I think you have a lot more power and slugging potential on the infield right now. But you got to figure that out to get some of that out to the outfield, because all these guys aren't going to be able to play on the infield.
And, we could go back and listen how many months ago to these episodes and you saying the same thing about the log jam in the infield. If we better have more than our guy, we better have multiple guys based on the depth of the middle infielders, because there has to be value out there. And I think the thing we're not talking about, and Kevin made the point about if the TV deal goes through, that's a huge if. And the way I'm looking at it right now is that anybody that's driven past Progressive Field and you've watched the news and saw the reports, I'm surprised you haven't even brought it up yet, Mel, about the
blue seats.
Blue seats. Oh my gosh.
Getting there.
You can't wait to just get, sit in one of those, right? But no, my point is they're spending money to upgrade to upgrade Progressive Field, and all we have to do is look out in Oakland and see what's going on out there and what didn't happen. All the things between the team and the city there. Now they're going to be moving to Vegas. At least if there's a glimmer of hope, we can see that our ownership is investing within the stadium, and then that means they're investing within the city. And I think the team is yet to follow. And right now, the term we haven't used in this situation with all these middle infielders and all these prospects is the term cheap labor. And I think that's what's really key to them, is get high talent but cheap labor. And that's why I've compared our team almost to, because you got major league teams and then the next level down is your AAA teams. I feel like we're like a quad A team where we have very good talent that competes in the major league level, but yet we're going to pay people more as opposed closer to like a AAA level. And of course, there's a league minimum for players, but still with these rookie deals and all these young guys, I think it's just cheap labor to keep us entertained. Why? Because you can't break baseball, Mel. We're still going to talk about it. We're still going to show up. We're still going to buy hats. We're going to go to the concession stand. They know it. They have us.
And what's crazy is we all spend the season's been over for 2.5 months now. Me and many other people on Twitter have spent 2.5 months talking about all the possible things the Guardians could have done in this 2.5 months, knowing damn well this team does not do anything significant until after the new year. And we always knew Tyler Glasnow was the shoe that kind of had to fall before a Bieber trade was going to happen. And if teams are really scared off by this shoulder injury, we may have to accept the fact that they're going to have to hold on to him until the trade deadline. He's going to have to come out in 2024 and prove that he is healthy and can be effective with that low 90s fastball. Because we know in this age of the game where everybody's throwing in the upper 90s, that's the sexy thing to do. A guy like Shane Bieber, who has proven he can be successful even with a velocity drop-off, is going to have to come out and prove it again because shoulders are nothing to play with, and you can't blame teams for being hesitant when he missed half of the 2023 season with a shoulder injury, right? So I think the Guardians, it's tough to kind of evaluate this team as we sit here live tonight because I think there's so much more that still has to happen. Because this can't be the team that you leave Goodyear with. It just can't. There's too many question marks. I don't think they paid Ramon Laureano $5 million just to keep Miles Straw in center field. I think there's another change coming there. I think Mike Chernoff, Chris Antonetti, whenever they've spoken publicly, they don't say much, but they have not shied away from the fact that the offense was the problem with this team in 2023. You'd have to be blind not to watch the Guardians in 2023 and say that slugging is an issue. I'm not saying you need guys who hit 50-plus home runs, but you need slugging, especially. Right. I'll take that any day of the week. Then you see Instagram videos of Franmil Reyes going nuclear in the Dominican Republic, blasting balls all over the place like he did against the Cardinals, hitting it into the parking garage at Progressive Field a couple of years ago. Like, are they going to dumpster dive? Are they going to sign a guy to a minor league deal and just hope he pans out? Or are they going to cash in on these prospects, pull the trigger on a Bieber trade, and use the trade route to add that slugging to the outfield? Because until they do that, I'm not comfortable talking about what they could look like in 2024 because I think they're going to be energized under Stephen Vogt. I think he's a young guy. Yeah, we unfortunately know the answer is probably right, Kevin. But they have a new, young, analytical manager. He just finished playing. He can relate to these guys. He's well-loved around the league. And I don't think the division is crazy good, right? Like, I think they 100% can compete in the AL Central in 2024. But it's the same thing we said last year. It's not about just getting to the playoffs. You want to make moves so that you have a team that can make a run in October. Winning the AL Central is cool. Getting one of those wild card spots, which won't happen in the Central, is cool. But, like, do you have a team that can make a run in October? Because we could talk about money. We could talk about all this all episode long. But in baseball, more so than any other sport, who gets hot at the right time, right? The 88 win Atlanta Braves won the World Series in 2021. Philadelphia made it to the World Series last year after a similar win number in the regular season, right? It's not about who has the most wins, who spends the most money when it's all said and done. Who gets hot at the right time? Do you have those veterans to mix with the young talent to propel the team forward late in the season, down the stretch, when everybody's exhausted and the kids have never been through this before? That's when that veteran presence is going to be needed the most. And We're going to have to see after the holidays what they choose to do about this mess of a roster they have on their
Right.
hands.
I mean, Kevin mentioned, attendance was up 40% last year. Some of the older fans like myself have to try to forget that back in the day at this time of year in the 90s, and I know you were just a young pup, Mel, but in the 90s, people right after Thanksgiving, as Christmas, everybody's out starting to really start their Christmas shopping. It was go raid the Cleveland Indians team shops at the mall, and it was buy tickets, and that's how the 455 straight sellouts happened, because we had offense, we had defense with Omar, which, by the way, 30 years ago today, Omar Vizquel was traded to the Indians from the Mariners.
Will Brian Roquio be the next Venezuelan shortstop?
That's right. And I honestly, I'm with you on that now. Before I wasn't sure, but I think I'm all in on that with Roquio. We saw some Freeman, we saw some Arias, but I think we're going to find out that we're not going to be able to keep Roquio from that starting position at some point this year. So.
Yeah. Well, we can end on a positive note. I think it should have came out sooner for the reasons you just said, so people could buy tickets and have it all ready for the holidays. But Guards Fest is confirmed, January 20th. The confirmed guests, so AKA guys who are not getting traded: Andres Jimenez, Gabriel Arias, Joey Cantillo, who James mentioned just not too long ago, Cody Morris, Tanner Bybee, Logan Allen, Gavin Williams, and Eli Morgan. Those are our confirmed guests so far for Guards Fest, which those of you who don't know, you should really buy tickets to get down there. James and I were down there last year. Mm-hmm. It's a blast. You get to meet all the players. They have tons of activities for families and the kids. The players are mingling and interacting with you the whole time. It's a great opportunity to get close to and meet these guys.
Yeah, you'll never know where you're going to run into them too, right?
Yeah.
You have your autograph session, but you also have, just being out on the floor. The guys came out last year.
Just go to the bathroom. That's all you got to do. They got to go to the bathroom too.
That's right. So, but no, it was such a good time. That's a good Christmas gift. Anybody out there looking to get Guards Fest tickets, they are on sale now. Mel, look forward to running into you down there. Again, it'd be nice if we could set up a table and promote the podcast a little bit. But yeah, we'll definitely look to hopefully we see some of you guys down there and we can interact and get to meet some of the people that listen to our show. Would really appreciate that. So.
Yeah, and as we wrap up this holiday live edition of the Guardians of the CLE, we just want to thank everybody who joined us live here tonight, shared some comments, showed us some love, much like you've done throughout the 101 episodes of this podcast. We wouldn't be where we are without all of you, the listeners, all of you who have shown us love and support. We want to thank you for that. Our Twitter handles are both under our names on the screen if you're watching the video to this. Make sure you head on over if you're not already and follow the Guardians of the CLE Twitter page at GuardiansOTCLE, and head on over to BelieveLandMediaLLC.com. We have you covered on all your professional sports, college sports, high school sports, all the written content podcasts you could ask for. The guys are all doing a tremendous job on the high school football coverage, so shout out to all of them. And before I pass it to you, James, I just want to wish everybody a wonderful, safe, happy, and healthy holiday season. I hope everybody gets some time to slow down and relax with your families, your friends, your loved ones, because tomorrow's never promised. Life is short. So I hope we all get a moment to catch our breaths and count down to the start of opening day. We got, I think, 98, 99 days left. So let's get it, James. Happy holidays to you and yours too, buddy.
Hey, you too, Mel. I know it's been a great year for you. And I just want everybody to, enjoy each other's company. I know the Christmas weekend's coming up. I know some people have to work through it, and those can be tough times at work. So really try to, be kind to each other and manage through it. And just know that for everybody for one person that's singing Christmas carols, somebody else might be going through it. So kind of keep that in mind as you interact with coworkers or customers or just people in general out in public. And this is the time of year just to remember to, for peace and goodwill towards men and all that. So just thanks again for everybody that's listened to us this year. And we look forward to coming back in 2024, having another live episode as we continue to build this podcast and build Believe Land Media. And just please stay tuned with us. And we hope you enjoy the rides and just, continue to give us feedback on what you'd like to see, what you'd like to hear from us and the content that we provide. So great job by everybody at Believe Land Media. It's been a great year. And Mel, thank you so much for, being our lead host on this podcast. Sometimes baseball talk can get a little dry, but you do a good job at keeping it interesting with so much details of all of our prospects, even when we're hurting for baseball news here in December. So
yeah, December 20th can be a tough time to do a podcast, but we'll be back with you guys shortly after the new year, first week of the new year. Hopefully we have some more clarity on the TV deal, and hopefully we hear some more about any potential trades that could be coming, so we have a little bit more to talk about. But once again, thank you everybody for supporting us tonight and all year long. I hope you and yours have a wonderful and healthy and safe holiday season. Until next time, everybody, be safe, stay healthy, and go Guardians.
And go Browns.
Go Browns, make the playoffs, please. Cavs won too. Bye.